Who's still working on the wrong one?
Yeah, I think there's just like, I mean, unless you really want to send it all today,
No.
I can get it to you tomorrow.
There's no.
It's probably not gonna be 5, but it'll be closer to 5 than 20.
Well,
I think
I wear the one here.
It is what it is.
The plants are joining. Can you all hear us? Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
So, yeah. She's the third square. Oh, okay. Yep, I'm muted. Yep. Virtual. Oh, are you? Like procedures and professional dress? Yeah. Yeah.
I don't imagine what fun you guys get to see.
Nice. Some people think it's okay. 7, 8. Universities 1, 2. Good. I know. They can run, but they gotta wait to vote. All right. All right. Go ahead and get started. All right, good afternoon. My name is Elizabeth Mayer, and I serve as the Assistant Commissioner for Academic and Health Affairs at the Coordinating Board. My pleasure to welcome you all here this afternoon after Thanksgiving. Thank you all for showing up. I greatly appreciate it. This is the Texas Transfer Advisory Committee, or TTAC. And also want to make sure we welcome our new members. So happy to see some new faces here. So before we begin, I'd like to ask everyone to please observe the following etiquette. So if you could please state your name, and if you could put your name on a placard there so we can see who is here. And then if you could mute your microphone when you're not speaking and keep background noise to a minimum. So, and as part of the Opens Meetings Act, you all need to please keep your cameras on so that we meet those requirements. So before we move forward to the first item, let me once again express my appreciation to each of you. I know this is a very busy time of year. Finals are likely starting, and appreciate you taking the time away to be a part of this important discussion. Let me also say how much I appreciate your institutions that you represent for supporting your time and effort on this advisory committee. Certainly not lost on us here, how busy you all are at your respective campuses. Thanks to your hard work and that of your colleagues who generously give their time to serve on our fields of study subcommittees as well. We are making progress. And so on today's agenda, we will be focusing on the biology field of study in addition to the kinesiology field of the study. We'll also consider action to recommend extending the rules for the implementation of the legacy fields of study, and we'll get into that a little bit later in our discussion. So before we move on to the next agenda item, let me take this opportunity to introduce the two co-chairs of TTAC who will be leading us through today's agenda. Dr. Laura Williamson, who serves as the Deputy Chancellor and College President for San Jacinto College. And then recently appointed Dr. Melissa Becker, who serves as the Associate Dean for Off-Campus Education and is a professor in the College of Education at Tarleton State University. So I'm now going to turn things over to Dr. Williamson so she can begin the meeting by calling roll of TTAC members and declare a quorum.
Okay, thank you, Elizabeth, and good morning, everyone. I echo Elizabeth's comments and appreciate your time supporting this very important work that we're doing. We'll begin with a roll call to ensure that we have a quorum. When I call your name, please respond to confirm that you are on the call by simply saying here or present. This will also be a good opportunity for all members who are joining us via Zoom, which is everybody, to practice hitting your unmute button for our discussions later in the agenda. I'm going to start with the TTAC members that represent our four-year universities. I've already seen Melissa Becker,
Present.
David Benz, Sarah Bowden,
Present.
Susan DeGeese,
Here.
Jorge Figueroa,
Here.
Ann Gillard,
Here.
Mitzi Lauderdale,
Here.
Cindy Melleja, Arturo Montoya,
Here.
Gabriela Rodriguez Espino,
Here.
Laura
Here.
Saenz,
Here.
Vedaraman Siraman. Siraman. Could you say that for me?
It's Vedaraman, Sri Raman.
Thank you. Okay. Serving as ex officio non-voting members are Alvin Johnson,
Present.
Jennifer Martinez. And now I'll call the TTAC members that represent community colleges. Kelly Davis,
Present.
Gary Evans,
Present.
Deborah Fontenot,
Present.
Andrea Foskett,
Present.
Angelica Gomez Johnson,
Present, and forgive me, I'm in a new office, so we do not have webcams on yet in our office.
No problem.
Norma Hashar,
Present.
Max Hibbs,
Present.
Michelle McGahee,
Present.
Catherine Olivares,
Present.
Edith Orozco,
Present.
Ryan Hamze. And serving as ex officio non-voting members, Gracie Martinez, Evan Scott,
Present.
was Gracie there?
No, I don't see Grace.
Okay. All right, I'd now like to move to the agenda item 2, which is the adoption of summary notes.
We have a quorum. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry.
Do I have a motion to adopt the November 27th, 2023 summary notes for the Texas Transfer Advisory Committee? I need a motion and a second from both the university and community colleges representatives. Could I have the university first? A motion and a second.
This is Laura Saenz. I move to approve.
Second,
This is Sarah Bowden. I vote to second.
thank you. Community colleges,
This is Angelica Gomez. I move to approve.
This is Max Hibbs. I second.
Thank you very much. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you very much. Motion passes. Next on the agenda is a presentation and possible action to recommend the biology field of study curriculum. Elizabeth is going to give a short overview of the alternate field of study, since that is how the subcommittee developed this field of study. It was groundbreaking and we appreciate that work.
Yeah.
And so,
I'll go.
I'll turn it
Yeah.
to-
So, as you all might recall, for those who've been on the TTAC for a little bit, biology had some challenges developing a field of study based upon the hours and what we're calling the standard field of study. So what we did is we developed a subgroup of folks, a work group of TTAC to develop a revised or alternative field of study. So I know Max Hibbs was on there, as well as Laura Sines, and maybe a couple of others of you. But so what we did is we pulled together that work group, worked for a couple of months, and then went through the rulemaking process, which takes several months. And happy to announce in April, those rules actually passed and were approved by our board. So after that happened, what we did is we pulled together the biology field of study subcommittee again, and they developed a revised field of study. But just to provide some clarity about what this means is instead of completing the full core curriculum, the student would only complete 30 hours of the core curriculum. And then for those discipline foundation courses, they have more flexibility. So in the standard field of study, it says you can go up to 12 hours for those discipline foundation courses. And this actually allows them to go up to 24 semester credit hours for those discipline foundation courses, and then up to 12 semester credit hours for those directed electives. So just want to let you know those rules were adopted. We brought this subcommittee back together, and you have your two co-chairs here who are going to present, and I'm going to hand it back to Laurel to introduce those folks.
All right. So we want to turn it over to Shante Hewlett from Lone Star College and Catherine Ryan from Texas A&M University.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. I wanted to first come and on behalf of both Kathy and myself, say thank you for hearing our concerns and coming up with a plan that was more in line with what the needs are of our students and finding a path for them to achieve their goal, of course, a 4-year degree in biology. So when we looked at the plan, the changes are more along the line with the discipline foundation courses, but here in the discipline specific core curriculum courses, we were able to maintain what we had previously in our original proposal 2 years ago, which was general biology 1, chem 1, and stats as their core courses. And then from there, the biggest difference came from what we'll find in our next slides, which is going to be the field of study curriculum, the discipline foundation courses rather, where we were able to fit more of those classes that they need to move forward into that path. So to finish out the last two pieces of our discipline foundation, I'll let Kathy do that. But again, we just want to tell you, if you don't hear it again, thank you very much for hearing our concerns, and hopefully these alternative field of study plans will work best with other sciences and engineering.
Okay, yes. So this is Kathy Ryan from Texas A&M. And in addition to the discipline specific, which allows us to have our students well prepared when they enter a 4-year program, is for directed electives, since that is up to the individual institutions. We included a couple of biology courses as suggestions, environmental biology and genetics, which will keep the students engaged in the biology curriculum. as well as reinforcing and getting them ready for their upper level courses. And then we are suggesting organic chemistry too, because many four-year institutions require that, along with calculus and environmental sciences. And with this new field of study curriculum, we really think that this will benefit the students going forward.
And
Thank you.
just to clarify, so after each of these, for those new members, we do a poll to say, do you approve this field of study? And there was 100% approval from the subcommittee for this particular discipline.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, do we have any discussion regarding the recommended biology field of study? We're now open for questions, discussion, comment. Nice work.
Yeah.
And
Thank you. Hello, I'm Ann Gilliard from Sam Houston State University, and I am new to this group representing the four-year institutions. I understand there's probably been a lot of discussion already, but my question is mainly about Math 1342 and why not Calculus 1 instead. In essence, I wonder how common it is for four-year institutions to have a similar course to Math 1342 in their degree plans.
So we went with stats for the first math core because that is when you look at the biology degree plans, we found that that was the most common lower level math, if you will, under Calculus 1 that was in the biology degree plan for the 4 years. And because of that, we added stats. We had stats in that in the plan. Calc 1 is still a math requirement for biology. It is just not the only one. So you'll see with calc is pushed to, I want to say, where did we put that? In the directed electives. And we found that the reason that Calc 1 was in directed electives is because not all biology programs in the state of Texas for the 4-year require calc. Most of them do, but not all. And so because of that, we left that option for the 4 years that do not require Calc 1 for biology to have a different math if they saw fit. However, stats was the most common of all maths that we found for all institutions.
Yes, and I will add that math was the biggest time, we spent the most time discussing which math to put in that for the core curriculum. And that was really by and large the consensus. And many professional schools that these students will go on to require at least one semester of statistics anyway, and it still leaves calculus as a viable option for institutions that want it.
Thank you both. That's very helpful. I know, at SAM, we only have one required math course, and that's the one, it's calculus, because that's required in the core. So I want to say only one required core math. I wonder, are there other institutions that will have to incorporate Math 1342, or are we the outlier at SAM, whereas most institutions already have something similar?
I can speak for Texas A&M is that we have, we require at least 2 math type core courses. And one of those that the students can choose is the stat option. And then the other one that we require is in fact Calc 1. So you will still be able to have your students and put on, develop their degrees where you can require all of your biology students to take that Calc 1. So that doesn't have to change your degree plan. You would have to accept and give them credit for the stats, though, if I understand how this works correctly. But you could also require them to take Calc 1.
again, so the consensus, what we found with the group that was represented in the field of study subcommittee, from those that represented the four-year institutions, they did state that stat was, in addition to Calc 1, a math that they preferred to see. Andrea.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Hello, Shante and Kathy. Thank you for presenting the discussions from the biology subcommittee. And I'm going to echo some of the concerns that I raised back then as well. Just thinking about this over the last few weeks after our discussion, I was just doing the math on the number of hours that would need to be included. So with the revised biology field of study curriculum, so my understanding is the core, it's a modified core with 30 hours instead of the 42. And then the discipline foundation courses that y'all just discussed here, again, that accounts for 24 hours, and directed electives selected by the 4 years can be up to a maximum of 12 hours. So this is a modified curriculum where a student seeking an Associate of Science in biology could end up, right, with a total of 66 semester credit hours. And I just want to point out that Chem 1411 is, if this gets approved, and it makes sense that Chem 1411 is included as the, I guess, the physical sciences core within the discipline-specific core. The prereq for Chem 1411 is college algebra, not statistics, not pre-cal, not calculus. It's college algebra, which has not been accounted for within the 66 hours, including all of the modifications that we're talking about. Physics 1401 is college physics. Now that is also something that we are recommending to be part of the discipline foundation courses, Physics 1401. There are two prerequisites for college physics. So you can, I mean, there's a few different options. You can take college algebra and trigonometry, or you have to take pre-calculus. So a student that needs to take college physics as well as Gen Chem 1, they need to definitely have college algebra. And then more than likely, they also need trigonometry. So, or they can take pre-cal, which still puts us to, if you take college algebra and trigonometry, that's 8 hours on top of 66. So I'm just a little concerned. I really like the idea of a modified field of study for biology. I'm totally on board with that. I like the idea that there's a lot more discipline foundation courses that are relevant to giving our students the right foundation, the strong foundation in biology, chemistry, math, physics, all of that that's required as they transfer to a four-year institution. What I am most concerned about is a student seeking an Associate of Science degree. Now you are talking about 66 hours instead of 60 hours. And then on top of that, if you add the two prerequisites that are hidden prerequisites, that's 66 plus 8. That's 74 hours. That's not a 2-year degree. That's not a 2-year degree. And I also want to point out one more thing. Students, let's say, that are interested in transferring to Texas A&M, and I know, Kathy, you've mentioned this, is you all really like our students to be prepared with Organic 1 and 2. So which would mean that our students would have to take Gen Chem 1 first, because that's a prerequisite for Gen Chem 2. And both of those are prerequisites for Organic Chem 1. And all three are prerequisites for Organic Chem 2, right? And they have to basically take it in that order. Gen Chem 1 first semester, Gen Chem 2 second semester, so on and so forth, which then would mean that the summer prior to them starting your first semester at a community college, they need to be ready. They need to be ready and completed with college algebra, as well as possibly not necessarily trigonometry, but at least college algebra, which it still means we are adding a lot of other hours to our 66 semester credit hour program. And no one's accounting for that. And I am all on board for this modified field study curriculum for biology, but I really have concerns I think it's going to be hard. It's going to be a hard sell as it is to get our students to agree to, like, we're signing up not for 60 hours. It's not a 2-year program. It is a little bit more than that if you really think about it. You need to commit to 66 hours. And oh, by the way, you may possibly need to take 8 more hours as hidden prerequisites. And that is one of my concerns. Thank you.
So what the committee had discussed while we were discussing this is that this is really talking about a transfer, what students need to be successful when they transfer, not necessarily what they need to get an associate's degree. And this 2-year plan that is proposed is no different than what 4-year institutions require of their students in the sciences. And so that is what we've tried to set this up is how can we have these students be successful when they transfer to a 4-year institution? If students do not come out of high school prepared for the math, we send our 4-year students that we admit, is if our students do not come prepared with the math, is they need to do the remedial work at the community colleges. And so it isn't realistic to say that we can eliminate math requirements or lower math requirements at what is needed at the higher level, so that the students can take less credit hours. The students need these sciences, foundational science courses, they need the foundational math courses in order to be successful as they go on. Whether or not the 2-year institutions adopt the same transfer agreement as what they require for an associate's degree, I think is a different question. But the 4-year institutions at the meeting felt very strongly that this is what the students need to have if they are going to be successful when they come to a 4-year institution. If they don't come with these classes, they're going to fail in their junior and senior level courses, and they are not going to get the degree. And so it's not helpful to the students to tell them that they are prepared and they don't need to take these courses when they absolutely need these to be successful.
If I may quickly respond to Kathy's comments, I completely agree that I understand that students need to have completed all of these classes in order to be successful when they transfer. But my concern is we won't get them to complete. We won't be able to get them to complete the 66 hours plus 8 more hours, 74. They're not going to be successful on our end if we burden them with all of these prerequisite classes that add on top of a modified field of study curriculum. So, I mean, I'm definitely from the community college perspective, I'm concerned there. I mean, we're not, our transfer rates are abysmal to begin with. I don't think that this is going to get them to come in through your doors. And I do understand your concerns from a 4-year perspective, but I do have concerns from the community college perspective as well.
So I would like to add, as someone that's representing the 2 years, that there are multiple conversations, right? So one is our student completion, right? When we are looking at them, especially if we were focusing on our funding model, right? We need to look at how they're completing, and then also their success as they transfer to a 4-year institution. I can say that there are some 2-year institutions, my institution included, who have an AS in biology degree, which looks very similar to the suggested field of study that we have for biology. Although I would say that ours might be a little more intense. It looks like we can pull back a little bit, but we have a 60-degree plan that requires college physics 1 and 2, that requires 4 semesters of chemistry, that requires 3 semesters of biology, that requires up to Calc 1. That's our Associate of Science and Biology program. It's a very specific degree that is tailored towards that student that is ready to really get those 2 years. Maybe they're a little further along in math, so they can come in either Calc 1 ready or maybe a pre-cal ready, and then they can just keep moving forward that way, and then they transfer. Is that the majority of our students? No, and we recognize that. But we do have a pathway for them. So when we're looking at the 2-year viewpoint, it's just a pathway to get them to their end goal, keeping in mind that we have other opportunities for our students to get there, which is like a general associate's in science. And if they can take those classes and get a little closer to their degree, they can. And then if not, of course, that's okay. They don't have to follow the field of study. They come in and then they just kind of transfer and get through piece by piece until they're able to get there. And that's also a great opportunity for those students that need a little more time to get to their end goal. So I think that maybe if we consider this as just an option for the students that have a very particular skill set or just really ready to get through in that 2+2 and a very and they're just highly motivated, this works well for them. This is not going to fit the picture, in my opinion, of all of our students that come through the doors of our 2-year institutions.
Catherine?
Hi, thank you all again for the work that's being done on this. I want to echo the concerns in terms of the mathway in which the student would be directed. And viewing the elementary statistical methods, the Math 1342 is the designated core course. That very much aligns with what I'm seeing traditionally as a bachelor's of arts in biology. So a lot of programs that require students to complete a BA in biology may have that as a requirement for the 1342, which is significant and should align. However, a lot of students may want to also have the option to go toward a bachelor's of science in biology, where a lot of institutions typically map at the earliest math, you see even pre-cal as the requirement for some of these courses. And so I guess my question, concern, recommendation all wrapped up into one is really, why not switch it and having the non-binding recommendation for the Math 1342 there, and then the pre-cal or cal 1 in the designated core area? Because we do see, as has been previously mentioned, that students will already, because of the nature of the courses that they're going to be required to complete, will already have to do math courses on an algebraic pathway to get to those prerequisites and meeting those prerequisites for those other courses. So I guess that's just kind of where my thought process is why wouldn't the math align that way? And then having the option for the 1342 if necessary, if that were to be an option for it for students who are thinking about the BA, or if that is a necessary or a second math requirement, right? Because we will see a lot of students, if 1342 is the required math, and they don't have to, if it's not a requirement to do another math prior to, they'll do the 1342 to make that completed. However, where will they be able to go with that particular degree for the field of study? And will it map to, and will our universities continue to provide that guarantee, even if it's to the bachelor's of science degrees that are more typically mapped with the algebraic pathway? And I think that's kind of the specific concern, is if we're already knowing that a math course in the algebraic pathway is something that should be what the student has, why wouldn't we keep a number of maths or math options for the students to stay in that algebraic pathway? So
I found that very interesting as well. I know that when we first looked at this 2 years ago, it was, let's look at college algebra because that's in the pathway. But the committee at that time voted to say, no, please don't consider college algebra. Instead, let's use statistics. So that was a decision made from the committee representing those discipline areas. Because I had the same thought process as you, that college algebra would be more in line, but that was not the consensus of the team.
Yeah, I think many of the 4-year institutions do allow and already count that statistics, because a lot of students, as I said, that are going to pursue a 4-year degree are thinking of professional schools, and since it was required in many. The problem that happens when you try to go, do you include the pre-calc or whatnot, is many of the two-year institutions, felt that their students weren't ready for that, but were ready for the stats course. And so I think that was why the stats course got put there, as opposed to and many of the 4 years will not accept college algebra. So but they will for the statistics. And so the idea is that those 4-year institutions that want additional math is they could put it in those directed electives, that last category.
Yeah, no, and that's a wonderful, I mean, I totally see the thought process on that. I guess my concern is that if it's not listed on the degree plan as a required course, students don't do optional. And as well, we will have an issue, I think, at the community college level when it comes to what is covered by financial aid, what the student will be able to have, be able to help them if they're receiving any type of assistance in paying for their courses. And so I do see a lot of institutions don't have college algebra anymore, or don't maybe take that, so to speak, but even mapping towards a pre-cal, right? So that's kind of where my mindset is, but I understand the logic and some of the conversations that have happened.
Other comment? Yeah. All right. I think we're ready to vote. We need a motion and a second from both the university and community college representatives. And so I would ask for that from the universities first, a motion and a second.
Mitzi Lauderdale, Texas Tech University. I move to approve as presented.
Thank you. Second.
Laura Science, UTRGV, I second.
Thank you very much. A motion and second from community colleges.
Edith Orozco, move to approve.
Thank you. Second.
Michelle McGehee, I'll second.
Thank you very much. All right, we will do the vote on a roll call. So please respond yes or no. I will start with the universities. Melissa Becker,
Yes.
David Benz. Is he not here? Correct. He's not. Sarah Bowden,
Yes.
Susan de Gisler,
Yes.
Jorge Figueroa,
Yes.
Ann Gilliard,
No.
Mitzi Lauderdale.
Yes.
Cindy wasn't here. Correct. Alberto Montoya,
Arturo Montoya, UTSA. That would be a yes.
Gabriela Rodriguez Espino,
Yes.
Laura Sines,
Yes.
Vedaraman Siraman.
Yes.
All right. From the community colleges, Kelly Davis,
No.
Gary Evans,
Yes.
Deborah Fontenot,
No.
Andrea Foskett,
No.
Angelica Gomez Johnson,
No.
Norma Hashar,
No.
Max Hibbs,
Yes.
Michelle McGahee,
Yes.
Catherine Olivares,
No.
Edith Orozco,
Yes.
Ryan Humsey. Not here. Yes. Do I vote? Yes. And Laura Williamson, yes. Yeah. All right. So the motion and second fails. So
We've never had that, so, the options, I assume, are to go back
To the
to
committee?
the subcommittee, or we will not have a biology field of study, and it will expire.
Okay, and that's at August?
Yes.
So the expiration date for the fields of study is August 2025. And so we can take this back to the committee. I think that clearly the sticking point was the college algebra and the math. And so we will return that to the committee and see if that can be.
I'd like the co-chairs to weigh in,
Co-chairs?
because we spent a lot of time talking about the math. And so I don't know if you all have any thoughts about how we would move forward before we make a choice, or potentially do not have a biology field of study.
So, to not have one, I don't know if that would be detrimental, considering that we have lots of programs that have ASM biology programs. However, I think if math is the concern, we could probably, and the question would be, are the universities willing to accept something other than statistics? And so that requires them to change their degree plan. So I think that's a big ask to ask the universities to adjust their degree plan for statistics that they are already saying that they need. So I don't know. I'm gonna have to take some time to unpack that to see if some other pathways. We already understand that college algebra is not viable because we don't want students taking anything that won't be credited towards their degree. And college algebra is one of those classes that will not be. Calc 1, we've already discovered is not required for all biology majors in the state of Texas. So to put that in the core would be a challenge as well, because you have students taking a class that they won't need depending on where they're transferring. Statistics, according to universities, was exactly what they needed. And so if we are removing what the universities need of their biology students, to identify another math may be a challenge. I think it's worth us going back and having a conversation, but I would like I would ask that, we keep an open mind when we understand the actual reason that we have this one particular field of study for biology. So if we can find a pathway for the students, that would be great. But I think it'll be a challenge, and I think Kathy and I can have some conversations and see if we can come up with some other options.
Yeah, I could see maybe getting something through where the pre-calc, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but where pre-calc might
Work
be
instead.
able to move into the core curriculum, and that could get past the committee.
Yeah.
But I can't see the subcommittee that came up with this ever going back and saying college algebra or trigonometry was inappropriate in that position. So I'm not sure exactly where the sticking point here was with the math. Was the math too high, or you just didn't like the stats and would rather see pre-calc? But going to less math is not going to be approved. I can see in that committee would be a really salt coming out.
Yeah, I saw a comment about hidden prerequisites. Hidden prerequisites has always been a concern. I agree. My understanding from many levels of curriculum is that they are a nature of a beast that we just kind of are dealing with. We're kind of stuck with a little bit. And that's long been a concern. Everyone has, I can speak for my institution. We have, I think our pathway, our mathway, I think I heard Catherine say, it's entirely too long. We have entirely too many maths to get to calculus. But people have different prerequisites. And I think that adds on to that hidden prereq that's very difficult to define when you're looking at those pathways. When asked about it on the state level, the feedback is it's kind of a nature of the beast. It kind of is what it is. So I don't know how we'll be able to get around the hidden prerequisite part of the maths. I think that's going to be a challenge for us.
Right. Yeah, and I will say is that including more math in the other portions is that we need our students to be able to take 2 semesters of physics at the 200 level or the 2000 level many people need 2 semesters of organic. They need 2 semesters of intro bio. They need the 2 semesters of introductory chemistry. And so when you put all of that in there, it is just a very heavy level of courses that need to be taken at the first 2 years at the lower division level in order to prepare students. And at the 4-year institutions is if we take things out of other places, the students will not be prepared to take their upper level courses. They cannot take biochemistry in many cases without having 2 semesters of organic, without having had some physics. And so as a transfer agreement, the one thing that really frustrates many people at the 4-year institutions is we see students coming in that aren't prepared. And that is what we don't want to see, is putting students into upper division courses that don't have the prereqs. And that's why there was such a push not to just say, we're going to cut out additional classes so they can get these prereqs in.
I like the pre-cal suggestion, Kathy, and maybe we can see like that will help a little. Now, again, we run into that students that come in calc ready, which are a small amount, but we do have, I think that's maybe a better option than considering college algebra. And then, once the challenge will be for those that do have to take statistics, how that will happen. If you can't require students to take a lower level class once they transfer to the 4-year, that's going to be a challenge as well. There's so many challenges when we build in the way the field of study is made. Once you say you can't take a lower level class. So if we say we'll take pre-cal, that's fine. But what I want us to think about, if that pre-cal is not required for the degree and they have to take statistics, but now they can't require a lower level, what does that mean for the student? And what does that look like? So I think it's going to be, there will maybe some challenges, and I would like to see us come to a resolve. Hopefully, we'll cross our fingers.
Well, I'm going to ask just for a voice vote to put the committee back in play for the early spring semester to see if we can find something else. But I would like to remind the group a couple of things. First of all, we knew biology was problematic in the first round because there was so much that needed to be taken at the lower division to prepare students to be successful at the upper division where they were not being successful because of lack of preparation. Okay, so that was a real issue that we had to do the alternate, what I call the alternate field study, the upside down degree, where we said they will be able to take some general education courses after transfer and not all 42. So that was a different and innovative approach to try to get this to work. Again, I don't think it serves our students well to put a field of study in place that almost assures that they are not going to be adequately prepared to pass upper division. So it doesn't matter if they take 78 credits, if they're successful. If they take 66 and they're not, or 60 and they're not, they're going to wind up taking more credits because they're going to fail. So, I mean, I don't want to beat anybody up, but we have to keep in mind the realities of that student trajectory and what it takes to be successful in these kinds of STEM pathways that are, and I think that one of our co-chairs of the subcommittee said this, that are really pathways for students who are committed, who are academically prepared and are ready to meet the challenges for those pathways. They are not easy. So English major here. So just know it's sometimes for students that's a tough pathway, but when they are dedicated, and here's the thing for me, and when they can see the path clearly delineated and know what they have to do when they need to do it to be ready to pass those courses, that is the key to what we're trying to do with the fields of study. So I've said my piece here. So I'm just going to ask for everybody to say Those who are in agreement that we put the committee back in play, early spring semesters, say aye.
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 Okay, any opposed, please say nay. Okay, so on that we can agree.
Yes.
So thank you very much, and thank you for the committee. I know this was a rough one, and we will come back and maybe have some options that are more palatable in the long term. But again, I think we need to think first of all about how we prepare our students to be successful. Okay, thank you very much. All right.
Thank you.
So I'm going to turn it over here to Melissa.
Hey, all right, thank you. So next on the agenda is an update on the kinesiology field of study curriculum. And I'm going to turn this over to Shelley Peacock from Blinn College and Brian McFarland from University of North Texas. And the TTAC members who served on this subcommittee were Sarah Bowden from the University of Texas at Tyler and Gary Evans from Blinn College. And everybody is here, so I will hand this over. So Shelley and Brian, take it away.
Hi. We have been working on the field of study in kinesiology for many years. And this is our second go. And hopefully, I think we might have gotten something that we can work with. I'll be presenting the core curriculum, and Brian will be presenting the actual courses that we'll have in kinesiology. For the two courses that we have for the core curriculum, we suggest Biology 2401, which is Anatomy Physiology 1, and then also Psychology 2301. Since kinesiology is so diverse, having any more would be very constrictive to the degrees. So we felt that these two courses would cover what most degrees in 31.0505 would need. So that's our core. Brian?
Yes, so somebody can go to the next slide for me. If I go, perfect. Okay, so Shelley alluded to it a little bit, and some of the members that are here on the call today that were at the subcommittee meeting can probably give some more detail to what I'm about to say, but the field of kinesiology is actually a very interesting one because it originally evolved out of a need to train physical education teachers. But since then, the degree has evolved to include pathways that would set a person on a path to pursue a career in allied health, such as physical therapy, such as occupational therapy, such as chiropractic, as well as preparing individuals just to go into general research fields or into sports science settings. That's in addition to training physical educators. And the reason I say that's interesting is because in our discussions, nearly every four-year university has handled this process a little bit differently. I can speak for my university. We have multiple degree plans, multiple degrees with different SIP codes that specialize in those different areas. But I would say that's definitely far from the norm based on the conversations of the committee. So it's much more common that a four-year university will have a single kinesiology degree with 4 or 5 tracks under that kinesiology degree that are all very different in their focus. Sometimes having different core requirements and almost functioning like a completely separate degree program, although not a separate degree program because they're all under the same kinesiology SIP code. So the conversations around trying to identify field of study courses was quite challenging because we would have universities that would say, oh yeah, these courses will work with this one track, but they won't work with this other track. So to come up with a set of courses that could actually fit into any of those options was very challenging. And I think it was about a year ago, maybe longer, when our committee met, we came to the conclusion there was not enough courses in the ACGM to support a field of study. And so I know the ACGM committee met and there was a bunch of us involved with it, and we came up with some new courses, some of which have made it into this proposed field of study. And so the courses that the subcommittee came up with were Foundations in Kinesiology, Personal Community Health, Concepts of Health, of Physical Fitness, and Care and Prevention of Athletic Injuries. And like I said, I think this is definitely a situation where Carl, I'm sure, can share with us in a moment what the final consensus of the committee was. I'll be shocked if our support from the committee was unanimous, because it was very difficult to come to a unanimous decision, but I think we did come to a consensus that we could all make work. And I think that's what the goal should be, is to keep our focus on the students and keep our focus on finding a set of courses that will support them in their move from a 2-year school to completing their degree at a 4-year school. And I had some other things I was thinking I wanted to say, but my computer decided it needed to run a Windows update just now. So I don't have that list, but we can answer any questions that anyone may have.
All right, so members, do we have any discussion regarding the recommendation? And the floor is now open for discussion. Let's see, Debbie, I see your hand is raised.
Yes, Biology 2401 is not a standalone class. You have to take A&P2 to get the full complement of anatomy and physiology.
It was, the reason we only put one there is because there are some degrees that want some anatomy, but also a chemistry course, or they say physics. So the compromise was that if a degree or if a university wanted to, they would do it in directed electives. If not, they would specify another science in the directed electives. That was our compromise.
A&P2 covers endocrine, cardiovascular, immune, lymphatic, respiratory, digestive, urinary, including fluid and electrolytes, which all of those disciplines you talked about need to know about fluid and electrolytes, and reproductive and human development.
Yes, ma'am.
The other challenge that I will say we had to balance some, and I don't know if we actually balanced the challenge or not, but more than one 4-year university said that they had been told by admission boards at physical therapy schools that if an A&P class was not taken at a 4-year university, they would not consider it toward the student's admission to a physical therapy school. So we had some universities that wanted no A&P included. But then if you don't include, I mean, there's no way to, I mean, like, I think we came up with something that everyone should be able to make work. Is it perfect? No. Is everyone going to be happy with it? Probably not. But it's something that will work for the majority of the students. But your point is well taken about A&P too. I don't disagree with that at all.
And I see your hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you. This is a process question that I think could apply to this group as well as the last group that presented. I'm curious as to how data is collected from universities about, aligning degree plans across the state with the committee's recommendations. So I'm hearing things like universities want or universities said, but how is that data gathered?
So during the first meeting that we had, we provided data in terms of the number of courses that are provided, and the number of students that are enrolling in those courses. And that is taken from the CBM reports that are provided by each of our institutions to the data team.
Thank you.
Because one of the discussion points when Laurel was part of the original work group in 2020 was that I don't know how historically courses were determined. So the data that is provided to each of the subcommittees is intended to drive the discussion, because we didn't want to have courses that were going to be selected that were not offered by the majority of the community colleges.
And then also, what about courses that are in degree plans of 4-year university? That's also part of the data that's considered?
No. So every field of study all the community colleges can only offer courses in the academic course guide manual. So because of that, only ACGM courses can be considered to be part of the field of study pathways.
But my question was, if data is collected on what is offered by community colleges, is data also collected on what is accepted by four-year universities with respect to those ACGM courses?
It's in the data that we provide them. It shows what the university, how many universities have it and how many students are enrolled.
Thank you.
Oh,
And,
yes.
and we did think about that too. We did think about the four-year course offerings because there was lots of questions from the four-year universities about, oh, well, I don't offer this course. Do I need to change my degree to include this course? And it's my understanding that's not the goal of the field of study. The goal of the field of study is to identify courses at the two-year university that if the student is field of study complete, the university will accept those. They will count them towards core. They will count them towards degree, the degree plan in some way, but they and they'll make it, they create a situation where the student then will go on and they will take courses at the 3,000 level and above. And so it's so that the students understand what will transfer from a two-year school to the four-year school.
Okay. Andrea, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you. So I'd like to echo some of the comments from my fellow committee members. I do teach anatomy and physiology, so I can definitely vouch for the relevance of ANP2 related organ systems that are covered, and they're definitely relevant, obviously, for anybody that is majoring in kinesiology. But also to Brian's point, I honestly am kind of confused with ANP. I mean, I'm a strong advocate to include ANP 1 and 2, right, in the kinesiology program. And this came up even with the biology subcommittee. A year ago, before our recent meeting, ANP 1 and ANP 2 were both courses that were recommended for the discipline specific courses, right? The discipline specific courses. But in our last meeting, several of the four-years emphatically said that they will not accept ANP 1 and 2 for transfer credit. They are both ACGM relevant courses. So I'm really confused. Why is it when they are courses that are approved in the ACGM guidelines, and when we as two-year institutions, when we offer it, why is it that four-year institutions will not accept it for credit?
So I wanted to comment on that because actually that was an interesting part of the conversation, and it kind of dawned on me while I was listening to the conversation that the people saying that likely have nothing to do with the acceptance of transfer credits. Because the reality is if a student takes that course, I mean, in fact, at UNT, we often recommend they take ANP 1 and 2 at a community college because the way it's taught at our university doesn't cater towards the needs of our students. That being said, the people that were saying we won't accept it, I don't think they have a choice. Like, I think if you take ANP 1 and 2 and it's in the ACGM and you transfer, they have to accept it. They have to. I mean, like, that's the whole point of having that, right?
I second that completely.
So
Brian.
they were saying those things, but it kind of dawned on me, like, it's kind of like I remember, I won't go down off the road here too far, but when I was just in a faculty role, I thought I knew how this all worked as a faculty member. And then I became an administrator. I was like, oh, that's how that actually works. Oh, that's how. And I'm in charge of student advising now. So there's a lot of things I know about what transfers and what doesn't transfer. I mean, like I was during the meeting, I was looking up the different programs to see the number of transfer students they do. Some of those programs they were saying things like they have no transfer students, but half their student population is transfer students that are likely transferring in these courses that they claim they don't accept, which I don't think the admissions office normally asks the department whether or not you want to accept a course that was taken. But hey, what do I know?
But yet I hear repeatedly of pushback from four-year institutions that refuse to accept courses like ANP 1 and 2. And I just want to know why we cannot all get together and be on the same page. Thank you.
I am a nurse, and I get told all the time that the only time A&P 1 and 2 transfer is for the RN to BSN programs.
That
And
doesn't
I've
make any sense.
never
That doesn't make
understood.
any sense.
Right.
Okay, Alvin, you have your hand up, please.
And I'm speaking as a director of advising to
Oh.
agree with Brian.
Okay.
Another reason it's so important with the community colleges having A&P 1 and 2 is that at our college, at our university, I'm not sure about others, we have a capacity issue that we have so many majors that require A&P 1 and 2, kinesiology, the pre-nursing, our psychology department, and a few others, that we just literally do not have enough courses. And we've relied on our friends at Lone Star down the street many times to even help us provide courses for students. But I think some of the confusion comes, especially when there's like the biology majors, right?
Yeah.
We have a conversation with students many times that the A&P that you're signing up for is not the A&P that a biology major needs and wants. So sometimes it's just clarifying that there's a different anatomy and physiology. Because sometimes students aren't always clear on that, because we sometimes have biology majors trying to take the A&P course that kinesiology majors and pre-nursing students want. And when sometime faculty here, we don't accept that course, that's the biology professors sometime not understanding that it's not a biology major that wants that A&P course, but it is non-science majors that want that A&P 1 and 2 course.
Yep.
Okay, Laura, you've had your hand up. Thanks for waiting.
Yes. I just wanted to comment on the use of the directed electives for the anatomy and physiology. I think someone else mentioned it earlier. So four-year institutions, when we get our request to submit our directed electives, if we want to see students have anatomy and physiology 1 and 2, couldn't we just identify it under the directed electives? That's one. So I think most students are still going to take it. It's just not listed in the core curriculum as a major specific or as a core curriculum requirement. And then I think the other part that's missing in the conversation is why general psychology was selected. I know why. I have a son who's going into a DPT program this upcoming year. He graduated from UTRGV with his degree in exercise science, not kines, but related. And so I know general psychology is an important part of the prerequisites for all of those programs. I'm assuming that's why, but if you could speak to that a little bit more, that might help explain why that was chosen over A&P 2.
General psychology was one of those courses that the majority of the four-year institutions had in kinesiology. It is the stepping stone or the first stone for child development, motor learning, even biomechanics in some instances, exercise adherence.
And sports
It is
psychology that some
an integral
programs have.
part of our degree throughout it is a common thread. So that was our first course that we agreed on. So we were really happy about that psychology class.
And we decided to do exactly what you suggested. We included the biology, the A&P 1 in the field of study. And then the idea is that there are going to be institutions, I know UNT will be one of them, that's going to require A&P as a directed elective, A&P 2. Because we would like a transfer student to have already had those when they come to us.
Okay, other points of discussion?
Sorry, I just wanted to share the final poll results that Brian had asked for. So there were 32 individuals who voted, 19 community colleges, 13 universities. 24 voted yes and 8 voted no, and the 8 no votes were split between the universities and community colleges.
Thank you for that.
Not surprised by that vote.
Not at
Like
all.
I said, I think we got consensus, but did we get unanimous consensus? No. I actually look back at my records. The first time I served on this committee was in 2018.
We've been at it for a while, Brian.
Yeah, we were still in person. Like I had to drive to Austin the first time I had this meeting for 2 days. So yeah, and then we've moved to this other format. But Yeah, so we've been trying for a long time. This is probably, I think this is maybe the closest we're going to get.
Okay, other questions or comments, points of discussion? All right, then let's see if we can have a motion and a second. First from members of the 4-year community, and then we'll have a motion and a second from the 2-year. Who would like to make the motion?
I'll make the motion. This is Laura Science, your chair, Judy.
Thank you. Motion is made. Can I have a second from a 4-year?
I'll second Sarah Bowden, UT Tyler.
Thank you, Sarah. All right, let's do our 2-year communities. Can I have a motion, please?
This is Gary Evans. I move to approve.
Thank you, Gary. Second?
This is Angelica Gomez. I'll second it.
Thank you, Angelica. All right, this will require a roll call vote. And I have been listening. I'm going to try to say your names correctly. We'll see how this goes. All right, we'll start with the 4-year. And my name happens to be the first on the list. So Melissa Becker, yes. Is David Benz, has he joined us?
No.
Sarah Bowden?
Yes.
Suzanne DeGeese?
Yes.
Jorge Figueroa?
Yes.
Thank you. Ann Gallard?
Yes.
Mitzi Lauderdale?
Yes.
Has Cindy Mejia joined us? All right. Alberto Montoya?
Yes.
Thank you. Gabriela Rodriguez Espino?
Yes.
Thank you. Laura Sines?
Yes.
Okay. And Saraman? Where did he go? Who is here? Okay, don't see him. All right, let's move to our community college now. Kelly Davis.
Yes.
Gary Evans.
Yes.
Thank you. Deborah Fontenot. Deborah? Debbie?
Yes. Yes.
Sorry. Thank you. I knew I saw
Find my
you.
button.
That's okay. Andrea Fosquet
Yes.
and Helica Gomez Johnson.
Yes.
Thank you. Norma HR.
Yes.
Max Hibbs. Max, I can see you, but I can't hear you. He says yes with his thumbs up. Okay. How about Michelle McGahee?
Yes.
Catherine Alvarez?
Yes.
Edith Orozco?
Yes.
Thank you. Ryan Hamzit? Oh, he was not, I didn't see him. Okay. And how about Laura Williamson?
Yes.
Thank you. Well, it looks like this passes unanimously with the people that are here. That is very exciting. Job well done, many years covered. Thank you, guys.
Yes.
We're in a historic phase.
A big thank you to Elizabeth and Melissa and Carl for their extreme amount of patience with it. I mean, they were just very, very instrumental in helping us get this moved all along. I don't think Shelley and I could have done this without them. So thank you so much for your service too. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, girls. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. And do we want to say the total votes? It passed with, it looked, on my count, there was 19 yes and 0 no. Is that what you guys have?
Yeah.
All right, great. All right, back to you, Laurel.
Thank you. So next on the agenda is a presentation and possible action to extend the rules regarding some of the legacy fields of study. And we are suggesting that we extend them to 2026.
Probably later.
Probably later.
Because it's gonna take longer than that to do.
Maybe sometime in our lifetime.
Right.
But no end date yet.
Yeah.
So, but to extend, so that we can deal with some of the, more difficult areas.
Yes.
In our legacy fields of study. So I'm gonna turn it over to Elizabeth so she can explain that to you.
So you should have received in your packet of material what is listed as the legacy fields of study. So you have architecture and then chemical engineering, civil engineering, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, Mexican American studies, and then music. In addition, in your packet, you should have received a couple of Excel spreadsheets with some information and data in terms of the number of baccalaureate graduate degrees with students with at least 30 semester credit hours, as well as the number of community college transfers with SIP with at least 30 semester credit hours attempted before transfer. So in those packets, you will see, I just want to go over a couple of things. You will see there that some of the legacy fields of study are not high on the list. I think architecture is pretty low. It's like 48th for the fiscal year 2023 baccalaureate graduate degree students with at least 30 semester credit hours. I think some of the engineering ones are also fairly low. And then Mexican American studies, I don't even know if it made this list. And then music. So what we wanted to do is just have a conversation. These are, if we do not do anything, if for some reason the committee decides, you know, there's not enough students, there's not enough programs in the state, we could potentially just let them expire on August 31st, 2025. This is also not an all or nothing situation. You all as a committee could decide there are some that are potentially worth developing a subcommittee and seeing if we could develop a field of study like we have with, let's say, biology. So it's really at the discretion of TTAC. But if we do nothing for none of them, then all of these will expire. But I have provided some initial data points for you all to have the discussion. In addition, for those new members, one thing that we are working on that is still in progress is developing what we're calling kind of meta major fields of study. So there might be one for engineering, there might be one for STEM. We haven't gotten to the details of that. We're working with our data team on that. So that is also a possibility. And then I also wanted to make sure that I had shared the 2 letters from some folks that had voiced some thoughts about them. There's one from, let's see here, the director and associate professor of architectural drafting technology from Del Mar, who's a member of the Building Partnerships and Architecture Education that we recently received just last week. And then another letter that we had received from music from last year. So I just wanted to provide all of that information to you all, and then you all can discuss how you would like to move forward. And I invite Laurel to add any other commentary, but we do need to make a decision. We'll likely have a spring meeting, which we'll be reaching out to you soon about, because if we are going to extend the timeline will likely be determined by how many of these you want us to go do, because that would extend it farther, or if there's only 1 or 2, it would be a shorter timeline, and we would make sure that we would get that done potentially, or at least establish the subcommittee and see if they can develop a revised field of study. Laurel.
So essentially, open up for comments and any questions, but essentially we are asking, and we'll take a vote.
Yeah.
But we're asking if you are good with moving forward with suspending.
Yeah, if we want those to expire, do we want all of them to expire? Or do we want some of them to expire but not others? So that's kind of what's up for discussion at this point. And I don't know how much you want to do today versus potentially at the spring meeting.
Right. And I thought today we were just voting to see if we want to discuss it at the spring meeting, to give people time to go back to your institution, take this list, and this is just me, and when you make comments, I sort of have the feeling that it would be better to take them as a bunch rather than trying today to separate out and say, we're gonna
Sure,
let this
sure,
one
sure, sure.
expire, that one
Sure.
not, and to make those decisions at the spring meeting. So essentially, the question before you now is, do you want to discuss, these legacy fields of studies and look in them further and see what we might do, in terms of putting subcommittees together to look at these areas? So questions, comments?
Or if there's other things you might want to see for the making the final decision, because we can make sure that we provide that.
Yeah, if you, and we could do that following
Yeah.
the meeting.
Sure.
If you think of a data point or some information that you might want to see, then give that to
Yeah.
Elizabeth, and then we can pull that. But I think that, again, the question before this
Yeah.
group today is, do we want to take this up at the spring meeting in terms of what we do with these legacy fields of study? Will that be an agenda item? And so we have to do a roll call vote. So is everybody ready? Any questions, comments before I move to the vote? All right.
I have a question. I'm sorry, I was looking at the spreadsheet of the zip codes, but do we know how many students have used these fields of study? Is that on one of the spreadsheets?
So I've got data. It's not going to be by fields of study. It's going to be if they completed an associate's in that. It's not going to be by if they completed the field of study.
Okay.
But I can provide that. Part of the issue is some of the data I got is small cell size and I can't share that. So I'm going to have to probably provide statewide data for some of these.
Some of these that are on the list are very, very small in
Yes.
terms of the
Yes.
the transfer.
Yes.
And the degree at the community college, and then the transfer obviously that follows, very tiny numbers.
Yeah. So I can provide that for each of these and you can see, there's also a couple of these that just don't have very many programs. It's not only the enrollment is low, but there's either a few programs or a few enrollment. So, but I can provide that for each one of these for the spring meeting.
And with these, speaking of that few programs, some community colleges don't have these pathways or
Right.
these fields of study at all.
Yeah.
They don't have the program at all. And then on the other hand, transfer institutions don't have it either.
Right.
So again, we're dealing with much smaller populations than something that would be a large transfer opportunity.
Yeah.
So what is the benefit of keeping? What would be the benefit of keeping any of the only one we have at Alvin Community College is music?
Well, I think that those who do have these programs may have healthy enrollment. I think that and then there are options for transfer. And if we want to put a field of study in place that would make that option a statewide option for those who do have those programs, that would be to benefit for the students. So even if it's small, there are program to program at the community college in the transfer.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments?
You mentioned, this is Michelle McGehee, Blount College. You mentioned that there was sort of meta majors going through. Do you know when that is expected?
We're working on that. Our data team has been very busy working on the new funding model. So we are working with them to kind of see and put that on the radar. So I'm sorry, I don't have a definitive date for you on that at this point.
But I hope to have something
Yes.
more
Yes.
formal in terms of the details of what that would look like at
Right.
the spring meeting.
Yeah.
So that this would be a richer discussion.
Yeah.
And forgive me, when is the spring meeting in the semester? This is my first meeting.
Scheduled it yet, but it's typically in like March or April.
Okay.
Because we have to have enough time to change our rules, which typically is a 6-month process, and we don't want, so the fields of study expire August 31st, and so that means it would have to go to our July board meeting. So that means like usually our rules are due like in March or April. We could have a placeholder, but it also has to go out for public comment. So we're gonna have to negotiate the rules calendar with when the TTAC meeting is gonna be.
Other questions, comments? All right, let's do the roll call vote. And again, we're just saying we're taking this up at the spring meeting.
Yes.
So Melissa Becker,
Yes.
David Benz, not here, correct. Sarah Bowden,
Yes.
Susan DeGacy,
Yes.
Jorge Figueroa,
Yes.
Ann Gilliard,
Yes.
Mitzi Lauderdale,
Yes.
Alberto Montoya.
Yes. Yeah.
Arturo, I have your name wrong in the list.
Oh,
Sorry.
That's
All
my
day,
fault.
it's been the wrong name.
Oh,
Yeah.
apologies,
Arturo.
Arturo.
That's okay. No problem.
Rodriguez Espino,
Yes.
Laura Sines,
Yes.
Veteran Silraman,
Yes.
Community Colleges, Kelly Davis,
Yes.
Gary Evans,
Yes.
Deborah Fontenot,
Yes.
Andrea Foskett,
Yes.
Angelica Gomez Johnson,
Yes.
Norma Hajar,
Yes.
Max Hibbs,
Yes.
Michelle McGahee,
Yes.
Catherine Olivares,
Yes.
Edith Orozco,
Yes.
and myself, yes. All right, well, thank you for that gift of a unanimous vote here for Christmas.
Yes.
Perfect. I appreciate it. All right. So turn it back over to Elizabeth.
So, what we're gonna do is the biology, subcommittee will reconvene, sometime in probably January or February. And we'll see what that outcome is and bring it back to the spring meeting. For the kinesiology, since that was passed by the committee, we will now post, the recommended field of study for 30 days in the Texas Register. If there's no substantive comments, then we'll move forward. If there are substantive comments that are received, then we'll bring that back to the committee in the spring to discuss how to move forward. But if there aren't any, then we'll go ahead and send the survey requesting the directed electives to our four-year institutions. And then the revised field of study will then go to the commissioner and will include any comments if they are received. Commissioner will then make a final decision whether to approve the recommended fields of study. So that is where we are with that. I don't know if you all have any other questions, but that's kind of the process in terms of next steps. Also wanted to see if there were other future agenda items you all wanted to have on here. So it sounds like the next time we'll likely have biology. I think we're working on scheduling the reconvening of the English and the history field of study. And then the legacy fields of study. And we typically are gonna try to just do 2 hours, since I know it can get kind of hectic. Mitzi?
Hello, Mitzi Lauderdale, Texas Tech. I was hoping at some point we could take up the conversation about transcripting or get an update about how we plan to transcript.
Okay.
As a four-year institution, it would be helpful if it was transcripted in a way, maybe a part A and a part B, that we can be for sure and support these students appropriately.
Okay, that sounds great. And we have been meaning to reach out to TACRO. We've just been overwhelmed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for bringing that up. Other topics for discussion, and also please feel free to reach out to us. We will be reaching out in the next couple of weeks to schedule that spring meeting because I know things get hectic. I don't know, a couple of you may have responsibilities during the legislative session. So we will work on scheduling that as soon as possible so we can get that time blocked on our calendar. And I don't have anything else, so Melissa?
Yes, and so I will now entertain a motion for adjournment. Who would move that we adjourn?
Edith Orozco, motion to adjourn.
Thank you. And second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. All those in favor, raise your hand or just do it that way so we can see. Okay, anyone opposed? we are adjourned. Thank you, guys.
Thank you all. Have a good rest of the day. Happy holidays. Thank you so much
Thank
for your
you.
time.